Hi everyone. Welcome back to AtlantaMusicCritic.com. I am your host, Laird, and I am still underpaid. Today, AMC creator William Ford is shaking it up. He has a conversation with his longtime friend violinist Domenic Salerni about winning the Grammy Award, thoughts about Lydia Tar, and classical music in general. Edits to this conversation have been minimal, and where made, were to compensate for some audio delay with the Zoom feed. Domenic is a member of the Ithaca Quartet, which won the 2023 Grammy Award for Chamber Music Small Ensemble Performance for their Nonesuch release of Evergreen by Caroline Shaw. The members of the quartet are Amy Schroeder on violin, Nathan Schramm on viola, Andrew Yee on cello, and Domenic on violin. Please join William and Domenic for this wide-ranging and exciting conversation.
Hey,
How's it going?
it's going good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, coming through loud and clear.
Okay. Where are you?
I'm in Richmond, Virginia, at the beautiful home entitled Marburg of Ingrid Keller. She's running a series here called the Belvedere series. We're going to be playing a bunch of Schubert tomorrow and Sunday.
All right.
Yeah.
First off, I really want to congratulate you being the best country and Western. Wait, what? Oh, no, it was. Sorry. Wrong interview.
Yeah, me and Willie Nelson, we just really brought it home this town. 2023 was the year of country music,
So spending time in Atlanta was truly not a waste for you.
No, not at all. Yes, I really am at home in the folk idiom of inside the perimeter.
And how's the truck doing?
Well, I lost it, and I lost my wife and my dog. If you play a country song backwards, you get it all back, right?
Yeah, exactly. So were you out in California for the award ceremony?
Sure was. Yeah, it was a crazy, crazy weekend. We were in Miami doing Ground Up Fest, which is run by Mike League of Snarky Puppy, and they were playing a bunch of shows. And we played a set with Becca Stevens, who's Nathan Schramm's wife, wonderful singer-songwriter. We did an album with her. He was up for best arrangement for instrumental arrangement. And so, we played that, and then we played a 1:30 a.m. set, and then we all got on airplanes and trucked it out to LA. And yeah, so and then that was Saturday AM, and then Sunday it felt almost like a wedding. Everyone's getting together in this house, and there's makeup, and there was a stylist and all of this stuff. And yeah, showed up, nearly missed the red carpet, but got there in time, and we're there to hear the crazy news. I mean, it was truly surreal.
So you had no clue beforehand?
Well, we had a clue that we were nominated. I mean, the whole. I mean, it's a real ordeal. They don't put you up or anything. I mean, the Grammy people are busy. It's like an army of people doing this production, and the focus really, of course, is the telecast. And boy, just to see that kind of LA Hollywood production value on display was really exciting. So just to be there was thrilling. And yeah, I mean, we went with the hopes that we would win, but also just. It's really just a big party, and just to be part of that energy and that environment was just like really unreal. As they say, music's biggest night. So,
And are the classical Grammys happening at the same time as Beyonce was getting crowned Queen of the Universe? I mean, is it all in the same room and everything?
well, it's all in the same day. So there's two venues. Well, there's three venues really. There's like the red carpet area, then there's the Microsoft Theater, and then there's the Crypto.com Arena. So we went from red carpet to Microsoft to get really the majority of the Grammys happen there. And that's something they don't televise, but you can find on the Grammy website or on YouTube. And then, of course, there's the nationally broadcast CBS telecast. And so that runs from, I guess, that started at 5 and ended after 9 p.m. So, I mean, it was truly an all-day affair. I mean, Amy and Andrew were up, at 6 a.m. doing hair and makeup. So, I mean, it was a 12 to 18-hour day. And then there was the official party, and then the many after parties. And, we were whisked from, backstage to press junkets to, like pop-up bars backstage. I mean, it was crazy.
Now, did the Grammy people do all the shuttling of you and all of that, or do you guys handle that on your own?
Oh no, they have this down to a science. I mean, it literally, truly, an army of people. There were so many people just kind of ferrying us around, or we a lot of it was sort of hurry up and wait. But the most important thing was just making sure everyone was in their seat for the telecast. So by 5 p.m. it was like, all right, everyone's got 30 seconds to, to prime time or whatever. So yeah, I mean they did an incredible job. I mean, it's a logistics feat. I mean, it really truly there's so many moving parts, and
Sure.
in a way the receiving of the Grammy felt like the easiest thing. I mean, there's a band that plays the award ceremony, and that was like from at least 1 to after 3 p.m. So they're just ready to go, playing people on, making sure that people don't talk too much, and and those guys, I mean, I want to just shout them out because that was a great band. And then there's musical performances, Samara Joy, a bunch of other people just kind of thrown in the middle there. So to go from the kind of emotional up and down of the ceremony to then this very high production, arena show ostensibly for the telecast, it was just like it's just so overwhelming, you know.
So did you meet Beyonce or no?
No, sadly. But if she wants my number, she's welcome to have it.
All right, sounds good.
I think Jay-Z would have something to say about that. But
Are you going to aim from here on to get more Grammys than her?
I think that's impossible. And no, I mean the answer is categorically no. I mean this felt like such a crazy fluke. I mean on a certain level, I'm very very happy with the work we've done, and I feel like I believe in Caroline's work, and I know that my quartet does. And the more we play her work, the more she writes music for us or for anybody. We'd love to be involved with that. That yeah, I mean that combination has worked twice, but I think so many people spend their careers aiming for this thing, and it doesn't work like that. I don't think. I just we just try to make beautiful music, and if sort of the big machine wants to honor us, that's really great, but that's sort of not the point. This
Sure.
is truly icing on the cake. So yeah, aiming for it, I think it's just a waste of creative energy, honestly.
Now, I think it's true that George Schulte still has more Grammys than Beyonce. I think that's right.
Your guess is as good as mine. I know Atlanta Symphony was knocking them out pretty frequently there for a while.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good question. I have to do the research. I mean, they made a big deal of her making history, so I would think that Beyonce's it. But
Well, I read
again,
that on slip disc, so it has
oh,
to.
then it has to be true.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I think the Atlanta Symphony has won something like 27. It may be
Oh
more
gosh,
than that
okay.
now, but that was
Yeah.
the last I saw. So talk about your quartet.
Well, that's a pretty good number.
Yeah, right. Talk about your quartet.
Sure. I mean, we're, the biggest news really for us is that, Amy, Andy, and Nathan have all had children. So that's a major game changer, and we're just so thrilled. Aria was the first out, and then we had Otis, and then Willamea. So that's been just an incredible source of joy, and of course lack of sleep, and the trials and tribulations of early childcare. But so that's been huge, and I think that's what every quartet, if they stay together long enough, will eventually have the possibility to deal with. So I've been Uncle Dom unofficially now for 3 times over, at least in my own quartet. And if I can shout out my brother Miles and his wonderfully beautiful wife Rachel, she's due at the end of this month, so I actually will be Uncle Dom, genetically, biologically speaking. So yeah, and children are wonderful and a joy, and it's not a necessary thing, but it is certainly I think probably the major thing that we're trying to figure out how to reconcile, because if it's 4 single people, the world's your oyster. You don't have anyone tying you down. You just go off romping through, through music. I mean, even, and so we're still doing that. Like, gosh, I mean, I think I've been to 6 new countries just this past year, places I'd never been to. So
All
that's
with the
wonderful.
quartet.
But yeah, with the quartet. Yeah, I mean, gosh, I was in Spain for the first time, Japan, Colombia, Peru, Brazil. I mean, we we knocked it out. And we're still, we haven't done our Paris debut, so that's going to happen in April. So we have a lot of projects and performances coming up. But yeah, I think we're realizing that, longevity, I think, would be something we'd love to aim for, and see how that works.
Um, excuse me. So how long have you been with the quartet?
Yeah, actually, officially, the day before the Grammys was my third year.
Okay,
So it's been 3 years now, and I hope another 30, or if not 60.
sure. Now, does this mean that you feel so much better than anybody who might have criticized you in the past?
No, not at all. I haven't changed one bit. It's funny. So Nathan's good friend and a recording engineer who actually did a great job. We did some original music for a podcast called The Sound, The Mystery of Havana Syndrome. And so Chris Botta was the engineer for us, and he came in matching jumpsuits to the Grammys with Nate. And he turned to me about halfway through the telecast. He said, there is now a before and an after, and this is something that will never change. And it sort of struck me, like, the permanence of this kind of not stigma, but like, it's a label now. But I don't think I've changed at all. I hope not. Of course, I think I'd like to think that I'm a more evolved, more nuanced, more experienced player than I was when we first met in Atlanta so many years ago. So and I just hope that trend continues. But no,
Sure.
I think to think hierarchically or better than is just a recipe for,
It's all right. You can say it here. I mean, come on.
no, but seriously, I really, I don't think that, I don't believe that. And if people, the one thing I'll take from all of this is that, I also am, always trying to be seen as much as any other artist is trying to be seen in all of their three dimensionality. And I think when you have something like a big award or a major achievement, people are more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt. If I didn't have any sort of things to attach to my name, and I was just out there, people would say, okay, that's cool. But all of a sudden they kind of listen, and look a little bit closer, a little bit more sharply at what you're doing, because that this award particularly has meant something for many, many years now. It is a little surreal to think that it's the same award that went to, say, Stephen Sondheim for uh, uh, bringing the clowns from Send in
Send
the
in the
Clowns.
clowns.
Yeah, so he has there's like a whole pressing in the sidewalk where we were walking, and it was like, yeah, I'm not Sondheim. There's no, the comparison aspect of it is ridiculous. I mean, I feel very fortunate, and I think Caroline is doing beautiful work, and I'm very proud of the work we did. But yeah, no, I mean, better than is crazy.
It's interesting that people who never win them say they're not that important, and everybody who wins one thinks it's really great. And of course, it's a little bit of Schadenfreude, I guess.
Perhaps. I mean, there's the undeniability of people respond to status, and if you're in a exclusive club, that feels fancy, right? But no, there are so many people who haven't won this particular award who are making beautiful music and being artists with integrity and changing the world. And yeah, if this helps me do that better, great. But I hope it's only a positive thing.
Just remember the lesson from Lydia Tar. You
How
can
the
be
mighty
the
fall.
architect of your own downfall.
There is certainly that. Yes. I saw that movie. I thought they did so much good stuff. And I know a lot of people who are musicians are like, oh, it would never happen that way. And I thought, it being a sort of feature, blockbuster Hollywood type movie, I thought they really did a good job. And there were a lot of kind of Easter eggs, this whole collecting pre-war Calmus scores. Like only people in the biz would get that's a funny thing and actually something that might happen. Like there's a lot of humor in that movie, and ultimately, yeah, it's a fall from grace. It's what happens when power corrupts. So
Right.
yeah,
I think people who say it's about conductors or lesbian conductors or about classical music got the wrong message. That it is exactly what you're saying. It's a fall from grace. And that can happen anywhere, any industry, any person. And so that part of it isn't that important.
Yeah, the funny thing to me, and the thing that I think people are still missing, is that there are so many examples of men who have done this, and so to fictionalize a female character based on the reality of real women conductors, particularly Marin Alsop, I do see that there's maybe something problematic. It's a little bit. Do you remember that series, The Queen's Gambit?
Yes.
So, like, there are real female grandmaster chess players. Judith Polgar, for example. Actually, the whole Polgar family. They're at least international. So at least one of them is a grandmaster, and she's like, she regularly beats the guys at their own game. And I say that because it has historically been a very male-dominated field. Now, when you make up a character and you make a sort of drama about it, this American sort of heroine with her like plucky crew of guys behind her, I mean, that's great, but it flies in the face of history, So I think doing this kind of inverted, power struggle thing when so many men and toxic men have embodied that, yeah, I could see that being problematic. I thought the movie was great, and I thought the inversion kept everyone's interest. It's like, how is she going to respond to this? How is this, as she even describes, I'm just a typical U-Haul lesbian. Like, how does someone with those qualifications deal with the pressures of power? And yeah, I mean, ultimately the takeaway is that power corrupts and it's not a gendered thing, right? So if that's the point that's being missed, then yeah, something's missed. But yeah,
I thought one of the best parts of it was at the very beginning when she was being interviewed. Because I've done now lots and lots of interviews with actually many, many Grammy Award winners. And
hey,
one of the things I try not to do is to tell them how wonderful they are.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the point of the interview. The point for me is to get to know the person I'm talking with. And it's not just to make their egos larger, if indeed their ego isn't substantial enough. But I thought it was amazing because I find those, I like Bill Maher a lot. I like what he has to say. And but every so often, Bill Maher will get somebody on his show who he simply melts over, and it becomes, and the one that I'm thinking of is Quentin Tarantino. I mean, all he could do was heap praise and kind of forgot what the point of the interview was. He was so in awe of the person. And I hope to avoid that personally, but I thought Tar did such a great job of showing how that can happen. I remember working on a movie once where there was a child actor, 5-6 years old, and between takes, the director would go to the little kid and say, "You are so good. You are so wonderful. Boy, you're great." And of course, we've never heard of the kid again. But, I understand why you have to do that for a kid. I'm not sure why we have to do that for adults, but everybody can fall into that trap of being in awe. So if I hadn't said it to you, I am so in awe of you. You're so wonderful. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, shucks. I can feel my head getting bigger. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I did find the ending of Tar to be really good because, the big thing for symphony orchestras these days is to provide accompaniment to movies. And of course, that, for those of us who know something about music, her playing with that orchestra in Southeast Asia, wherever it was, to accompany a movie or a video game really was a true downfall. But then I think of the poor people who stand in front of any symphony and beat out according to the little monitor they have in front of them, and everybody applauds, but it is not the same kind of thing as being a conductor of, score, classic score, for example, at least in my view. But I thought you had to understand something about the hierarchy within the classical music world to get how bad the end was for her, even though she continued her dedication to producing music. So there you are.
Right, but don't you see that? Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I find that actually to be quite humorous, because if the most tragic fall from grace is to be conducting a video game score, well, honey, that ain't so bad. And frankly, having played a lot of these, it's quite fun. But what you say is correct. I think certainly amongst orchestral musicians, there is this perceived hierarchy that if I'm not playing Mahler or Bruckner or Brahms or Shostakovich, and it's Mist, or it's Zelda, or it's, God forbid, John Williams, that, my artistry is being taken advantage of. And I have to respectfully disagree. Classical music, first, I have issues with the term itself, and we've talked about this in the past.
Right.
But if you're talking about an aging audience and you're talking about bringing new butts into the seats, and play the stuff people want to hear, and if that happens to be Blade Runner or Red Dead Redemption 2, so be it. And that's part of the job. And that's actually, and this is my beef with orchestral musicians, period. You have willingly, with not under duress, sacrificed a large degree of your personal artistic voice to be part of a corporate style of creating music. And if this rankles you, quit the orchestra. Because, I would love to have your paycheck. Y'all are making 4, 5, 6 times the amount of money that I am, but, then I get to make my own artistic decisions. So, I mean, good on me, sure. But then, am I able to have a family? Am I able to pay for good health care? I mean, those are the trade-offs that I make in my life. So if they're going to be complaining, I think there's something really rich about that. And it really rankles me, actually. Let me tell you how I really feel.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, is there something you want to say?
Right, yeah.
The other thing about Tar that I really admire was the director, Todd, I'm forgetting his last name, because he was an actor in Eyes Wide Shut, which is like my one or two most favorite movies. Todd Field.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see Eyes Wide Shut?
Okay.
He was the piano player.
Yeah, many times.
Who gave Tom Cruise the password. Fidelio.
Right.
Yeah, anyway.
Oh, that's so. Yeah.
Anyway, so I thought I liked Tar a lot. I find that within the movie, forgetting what it is in the real world, it was a downfall for her. And particularly when she went to one of the go-go places in Southeast Asia where you can purchase a human being for an hour or so, that it finally struck her that this is really awful. And totally. Anyway.
Well, again, I mean, my opinion aside, I think what you say about the hierarchies in classical music, I mean, those are very, very much alive, and people's careers are somewhat very much dependent on them, and again, that's where this idea of status really comes in. I can think of people who've conducted, great orchestras who are only ever guest conductors, and they sort of fall into the trap. It's a little bit like being the vice president. You got a great job and an important one, but if you're not, if you haven't somehow cracked that code, then you'll never get the premier post or whatever. Think of the sacrifices that conductors have had to make in the past. I'm thinking of Lenny Bernstein, not being fully able to express himself in his own, three-dimensionality. I'm thinking of Mahler, who had to, sacrifice his faith in order to get the Vienna Philharmonic. And they told him, they said, you're the best, but you can't be Jewish. You have to renounce your faith. And for him, it was a pragmatic decision. Do I want to be one of the greatest conductors / composers of all time? And so he made a Faustian bargain. And I mean, there's so many of these things. And so, yeah, I mean, it was just within the closed universe, I guess, of classical music. The ending was befitting of Lydia Tar. I also loved this notion that maybe her name was actually Linda, and that Lydia was this kind of made up thing. Like maybe she's just from Long Island. I'm thinking of like Zara Nelsova. Her name was like Sarah Nelson. She's from like Oklahoma or something. It's like
Right.
the idea of the persona and what you have to do to sacrifice yourself so that you can be more profitable or more marketable, more attractive. I mean, that's real stuff.
Yeah, right. And interesting issues. I thought your comment about always being a guest conductor, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it quite that way. But yes, there are professional guest conductors.
Totally. Yeah. And not necessarily, I'm sure if they had their way, they'd love to be the music director of a major organization. And, there are only, these jobs are few and far between, and it's such a fragile kind of thing. So.
And we do have this cult of conductors.
Do we need a cult of conductors though?
But well, people who are into classical music make differentiations that the average person wouldn't hear, but much less care about. And those kinds of differentiations end up putting people on pedestals, whether they need to be or not. It's that's the way it is.
Well,
doesn't make it right.
Such an ephemeral
it's just the way it is.
So subjective. I mean,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, I can't agree.
And even the role of the conductor in Europe is different than the music director in the U.S. They don't get paid the kinds of salaries that their U.S. counterparts get. Given though that there aren't that many that are
exceptions.
Yeah. But there is a prestige to conducting in Europe that may not happen here in the US. In fact, probably it doesn't happen, and maybe it doesn't matter. But this leads me to the celebration of Yannick Netze-Sagan in Philadelphia, who signed on for another re-up of his contract, and they're having a week dedicated to him in Philadelphia. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it is, and it's the kind of thing you might see in Europe, but you don't necessarily see in the US. But if anybody's going to do it, I suspect Philadelphia would do it.
Yeah, well, and it says something about how Eurocentric or Europe-facing some of the orchestras in America are. I think Philadelphia is a good example. Cleveland, of course, by all rights, in a way, shouldn't be as wonderful as it is, but it's such a unique history of Central European immigration, predominantly, that has become sort of the backbone of that organization. I think. Notably, the New York Philharmonic, signing on Gustavo Dudamel, I think is going to be something of a change. I mean, his whole outlook is somewhat different, but also, the whole El Sistema thing is still relying on the music of Central Europe, of the music of Vienna, the great, European artistic capital. So, yeah, I mean, that to me, it's more a larger conversation of American music is so much more than Europe. And I mean, you go back to Dvorak saying that you guys should be creating your own music. Stop trying to copy our stuff. You guys have such a rich tradition in America that, could be explored, needs to be explored. And I think this is why Beyonce is the queen, not Sholti. This bleeds over into how pop music works and what even pop music is. I mean, there was just music in Europe, and that was, what was sanctioned in the concert hall or in the opera, anything that was outside of that was folk music and had a huge stigma attached to it. Whether it was klezmer music or music of the Romani or, troubadours or anything that was outside of these sort of, anointed, places, wasn't really even considered historical. And it's only recently that this music is seen as having just as much, if not more, long and deep tradition than what we think of as classical. So yeah, it's a wild conversation, really.
And by the way, I think for Lydia Tar, she needs only to get on an airplane and fly to Beijing, and she would be queen there also, because of their move toward really buying into European classical music. I mean,
well, and I still love European classical music. I mean, there's some great stuff that's been done. I mean, yeah, but it's you have a good point. I mean, there is sort of this pedestalization of the great masters or whatever. And yeah, I do think that's a reflection of I mean, not to paint too broad a brush here, but think of how centralized authority works in China. Think of the history of American involvement in places like Korea and Japan. I mean, of course, or in just European involvement generally. So yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, honestly, just to speak from personal experience, we were just in Japan, and we were some of the first musicians to play live concerts after the pandemic, like, period. We had to get a special visa just to perform there. And people were so thrilled to hear live music, number one. Number two, in Japan, you find the most polite audiences. You will not hear a pin drop. And they are knowledgeable and they love it. And they clap, not loud necessarily, but they clap very long, because the expectation is that you do a number of encores. And so at when we were playing with the Nagoya Philharmonic and when we were doing our recitals, we had to do 2, 3, sometimes 4 encores. It was incredible. And so to feel that kind of true appreciation, almost extreme appreciation, was amazing. And you think about some of the great American art forms. You think about jazz. In Tokyo, there were something like 400 to 500 jazz clubs that blossomed from the 50s on, and those have gone down. There's only about 120 left. But this notion of going into a bar where the back wall is not booze, I mean, there's that too, but it's vinyl. And then there's a small stage, and then maybe like a jazz trio, a combo will play, maybe even just a solo pianist. And there are people there are of all ages too, but often just older men who are just sitting there, just like in this zone.
right.
And so the appreciation of music and particularly Western art forms there is just off the charts, really incredible. So to witness that firsthand is incredible. Yeah,
there is hope for Lydia.
There's hope for Lydia. There you go.
Yes, even though from the world of American classical music or European classical music, she kind of fell off her podium. She has a place to go because she's in the right area of the world to have a renaissance. Look, we've had, and we don't have much longer to go on this, but we've had major opera singers who have been disgraced, and major conductors in Europe who just simply go somewhere else and they still go on. It doesn't follow them. And of course, that has to do with societal values and so on. But nevertheless, there can be a life after that kind of thing, if you find the right place to go.
I guess so. Yeah.
Anyway, so we only do. Can you imagine how fast the time goes when we start talking? Because it's been like almost 40
That's
minutes.
great. Yeah, we could do this for hours.
So
I
again,
can't believe that. That's really wild.
Congratulations. It's always great to talk with you. You have a lot of good context, and I appreciate it. And congratulations.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. It has been a surreal experience, and as always, it's a pleasure to speak with you and to think about stuff that I don't always have an opportunity to. So it's a good time with you to reflect, and we always get into good stuff. So thank you for that.
And just remember, you were the very first person I ever interviewed for.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well,
yeah. So
there we go.
There you are.
See, that means more than a Grammy, honestly. It's like, that that feels really great. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Anyway, hey, enjoy your stay there. How long are you going to be there?
Oh, just the next 2 days. We have 2 concerts. I'm doing it's considered a small sonata, but anything that Schubert did had incredible breadth and depth to it. So I'm going to play the A minor sonata, and then both nights we'll play the B flat trio. So I'm very excited.
Piano. And then back to home base?
No. So then I go to Baltimore to sub with the symphony there. We're doing Mahler's First Symphony and a piece by Huang Ro with the great Marin Alsop. So maybe I'll ask her. She's already on the record about her.
She's already on the record. Indeed.
Yeah, we're good there. But and then I actually head to Ireland for a week of fun.
So where are you going?
Dublin, and for just a few days Belfast.
Okay, enjoy it.
Thank you. Yeah, it'll be a first for me, so I'm very, very
And
excited.
just remember, there are 50 Shades of Green there.
Sure, 50 Shades of Green, and maybe a hard border, in the next 10 years. We'll
exactly.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway, hey, thanks a lot.
Great to see you, William. Yeah, take care. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks, William and Domenic. And thank you for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications below. If there is someone you would like William to interview, leave your suggestion in the comments section. Let us know what you like about this channel and any changes you would like to see. Please become a patron at any level. Even just a few dollars a month will help AMC to continue to grow and improve. Scan this QR code with your phone for direct access to www.patreon.com/AtlantaMusicCritic. If you would like more information about today's guest, go here. This is Laird. Thanks again for watching Atlanta Music Critic. See you again soon with another in-depth interview about leaders in the classical music world.